This episode of the Council of the First Ones was recorded on October 2nd, 2022.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Council of the First Ones. I'm Kelly. Joining me today is Shawn and Dave. How are you boys doing?
Doing all right. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, boys. But the biggest birthday of all is our boy turning 40, He-Man, this month. So it's a great month to be celebrating.
Yeah, absolutely.
For you and me being Libras, I like the fact he's one of us.
Yeah. Well, I think we should start off maybe talking about the four-pack that's still available on Mattel Creations, celebrating 40 years of He-Man on TV, which actually is 39 years. It's a year ahead. And that it's been up for sale now for 2 weeks and has not sold out. For those who don't know, the price point is $150 with approximately $20 shipping for 4 origin figures with only 16 points of articulation. So,
Yeah.
guys, what are your impressions about this 4-pack and that it's hasn't really moved?
Yeah, there's some very interesting responses on the Origins fans group about this 4-pack. People are largely very disappointed with the price point. Although, I think it's fair to mention that there have been other multi-packs that are, exclusive sets in the Origins line that have sold for $150 in the past.
Yes, the Horde pack that was the PowerCon exclusive did. But I think a big problem is 2 of the 4 figures have already been released at retail prior to this 4-pack. Because you have the Filmation He-Man, which basically just had a new hair sculpt added, and the 2000X, which just had reduced deco, both released at retail.
Yeah, the He-Man, has different bracers and loincloth and armor and sword and head but so I wouldn't say that it's not a figure that's I wouldn't say that it's a figure that's already been released, but you're right that the 2000X figure certainly has been released.
Yeah, I forget who did the comparison of the retail version to the 2000X, and it is an exact.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just less paint deco.
Yeah, they gave him some of that vac metal. It's got a shinier sword and shield, just like the other 3 figures. They all have the vac metal on their weapons, which I don't care for myself.
No, I don't like the vac metal either. It chips off too easily after time.
Yeah, and I feel like they're completely unnecessary, and I want the regular weapons. You don't see vac metal in all the other Origins figures. I mean, it's just kind of a waste, really. It's kind of a really, it looks like a really good idea on paper, this 4-pack, and people who have purchased it and who have received it in the mail, they're giving it a lot of praise, saying that the packaging, the special packaging, that looks like a television set with the TV guides inside and the slip covers, and the brand new card back art as well. It all looks very appealing and very nice. I wasn't going to get it. I ended up, ordering one so I could hold on to it and maybe get a custom Filmation He-Man head, because nobody one of the huge complaints is the duck face, the duck
Yes.
lips on
Blue steel.
Filmation He-Man. Yeah, blue steel. I mean, it does really look bad, that He-Man, that mouth on the Filmation He-Man sculpt. I mean, it's just, I don't know why they would do that. Like, why, anyway, just not thrilled with that. Same with the New Adventures He-Man head. I mean, it just really does not look like New Adventures He-Man to me.
No. Well, the whole figure to me didn't look like New Adventures. If they were going to honor the cartoon, they should have given it a more athletic body instead of the muscle.
Well, of course, this is Origins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the buck.
I mean, they did the 2-pack with Skeletor and He-Man, and they did the flocking on He-Man and all that, and they had the die-cast weapons just recently. They also have the 40th anniversary Masterverse He-Man to commemorate 40 years, and now they did this, and it's like, it's great that they're commemorating in that way, because it wasn't the 2-pack for the same reason, or am I wrong? Was that just an exclusive?
No, that was an exclusive.
Okay, I was wrong there.
40th anniversary of He-Man.
But
Where
I don't know.
they went over, they really did a nice job, and I wish I could have gotten that 2-pack.
Yeah, I thought that was a good one. Like that I felt like I haven't gotten any of them, but I felt like out of all of them, that was kind of cool. The flocking was a little odd. Like, why would you flock it? It wouldn't be flocked even if you saw it in person. Like, that's one of those things. I'm like, all right, if somebody was just happy with the flock that week or whatever. But I don't know. For me, I guess part of it is, and it goes back to the beginning of the Origins line for me, is the way that they're doing those heads. There's third-party people out there who are kicking that thing's butt, and even the Masterverse stuff too. I'm seeing a lot of it on Facebook and a lot of these toy groups, that these people are giving what the fans are wanting.
Right.
And they want them to look like either the cartoons or like the traditional vintage version that they grew up with. And for me, like the 2000X He-Man, when I look at that one, I'm like, why is it a vintage He-Man face with the tousled surfer hair? It's almost like your father going back in time and trying to make his hair look stylish. It doesn't work,
It looks like an old man.
It looks like an old man trying to be 20. It really does. And there's things about it where I know there are people that love the line, but every time I look at the line, I'm like, a lot of this stuff always feels like it's disjointed. It's half from column A, half from column B. They mesh it up and boom, they give it to you. The New Adventures He-Man's face just looks there. He doesn't look heroic. He doesn't look like He-Man. He just looks there to me, just like the Masterverse version. When they showed that one, I was like, between him and Hero, I don't know which one I think looks more bored to be here, but those two are there, And then in the case of like the Filmation one, like David was saying, I looked at that and I go, that is not how I would have pictured Filmation He-Man ever. Like, that is not the face that, if that would have been the face on the one that I had when I was a kid, I probably would have just kept my classics, my classic vintage He-Man, and that would have been it,
Right.
For me, I think the only one that was even remotely intriguing is the fact that they did the CGI He-Man with the body type for Origins, which then I'm like, the people who complained about the proportions, now they could see it in that way, and it actually looked kind of cool. I actually didn't mind that, but it's not enough for me to spend that kind of money. I mean, to jump ship into a different toy line. Just yesterday, the Four Horsemen released Figure Obscura, which is a new line they have like in conjunction with Mythic Legions. And in time for Halloween, they announced they're doing a Headless Horseman figure with a steed. And that was $120. And I felt that was well worth the money. Whereas this for me is like, these figures are going for what, 10, $15 a pop? and then
Right.
you're
Yeah.
paying $125 plus shipping.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you said, the vac metal isn't really that interesting. You're basic. It's a collector piece. It's not meant to be in your collection to play and pose and all. It's just meant to be on the shelf. And I feel like that it's too expensive for what they're giving you personally. I get there's like the bells and whistles with the box art. Oh, it's the old TV guide listings. That's fine. But it doesn't have that feeling of it's a must have. I feel like when you honor the original stuff, that's where the people are getting excited about it, like the 40th anniversary version or the 2-pack exclusive or something. But when you do this and it feels more like this is like a kitschy Super 7 kind of a product, it's not going to grab people the same way, especially coming
Sure.
from Mattel, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and somebody was saying that they're not going to be releasing two of those figures in the retail line, like this attempt to make it sound like you have to buy this because these figures will never show up anywhere again. I have no idea why they wouldn't just release them at retail with the regular weapons and the retail price point.
Did they say
So
which two?
Probably
I
the
don't.
they haven't released yet, which would be the CGI and the new adventures, have not shown up at retail yet.
But they haven't really done a filmation-esque until this one, if I remember right. Am I right or
Right.
wrong on that?
You're
So
right.
that's kind of why it's like it could be that, and it could be they aren't going to jump down that well because of the rights issues, because we've always talked about that being an issue with Mattel. 2000X Mattel owns, so that's an easy. They can keep going down that well, and they have already started. But like new adventures, there is that question to me of how many people are really going to be lining up to get those versus any of the traditional versions. That's a extremely niche market of a
Mm-hmm.
fan base, and the CGI one's already covered in two other lines. I really
Yeah.
don't need CGI origins. I'd rather have the Masterverse version or the version that my kid loves to play with. That those are working really nicely.
Well, and somebody showed off in the Origins fans group a picture they took of the kind of the packing slip, and in the name of the package, inside the name it included PC, and so they thought, well, maybe that meant that this was supposed to be a PowerCon item that ended up getting put on Mattel Creations. So
And
kind
Val,
of speculation
Val
there.
actually went on that thread and said, no,
Oh.
that was not supposed to be, that Mattel had backed out prior to
Mm.
any announcements. And then if you watch
Mm.
any of Scott Knightlick's videos, he figured this was supposed to be, or at least certain figures from this were supposed
Mm-hmm.
to be in-store exclusives as part of one of their packages. And the
Mm.
store said no last minute, and they already had the tooling and had to figure out something to do with the quantity that was already produced.
I see. Interesting. Well, I do hope that we get Filmation at retail. I don't know. I don't personally see why not, since we got a bunch of Filmation figures in the Classics toy line.
Well, they had negotiated and gotten permission from DreamWorks, which is now owned by Universal, to do
Mm-hmm.
Filmation.
Cool. So yeah, let's get some Filmation figures. I'd love to see them. And I'm curious if they're gonna give us like a 4-pack for Skeletor, which again I don't see why not. It would kind of be weird having a He-Man set but no Skeletor set, right?
Well, I
I
could see
agree with
them
that.
looking at the sales,
Yeah.
whether or not they do something like that. And
Sure.
I think if they reduced the price, then the 4-pack would have sold a little better.
Yeah.
because when
Oh,
you figure out for one figure of that 4-pack, you're paying almost $40.
The
oh
the
yeah.
two the exclusive 2-pack, what that ended up being 75,
$80,
$80. All right.
but
Yeah,
it
like
but it also included all that die cast
exactly. And
weapons, and there were a lot more weapons than they normally give.
that's kind of the thing to me. It's like, that was a way more, that exclusive made a heck of a lot more sense for people to want to jump on board with that because of the price point and the value in it. This
Right.
one, like the box art, there's certain times, there are certain instances where the box art can make or break me going, that is worth it. Again, going to the Four Horsemen yesterday, that set made sense to me. Nate Bart's artwork usually is more than worth the extra money because that guy, his take on not only Four Horsemen, Mythic Legions, but also Masters of the Universe, yes, please, every time. But when it comes to something like this, it feels like it could have been the same price point, 75,
Mm-hmm.
$80 for this, because those figures are definitely not going for 30 to 40 a pop either, like, and no,
Right.
the vac metal and stuff, it's like, you don't need. I completely agree too. When you see those figures and they have those shiny weapons, it makes it so weird. It's like an oxymoron or something. It's like, that does not make sense together. You don't do that. It's supposed to be plastic and it's going to have like a silver paint to it, but it's not going to be vac metaled or whatever. So,
Right.
and it stands out in like a not good way. It
Sure.
has that like unplayfulness vibe to it compared to what the other figures will have on your shelf. So,
Yeah.
but I know there are people that, like David was saying too, I know personally there have been people who have gotten them and they're actually like, this is really cool. Like they're not like raving, but they're like, this is a pretty cool thing. I'm glad I got it or whatever once they get
Mm-hmm.
it. And so,
Yeah.
and for those people, I'm glad it's out there because, hey, if you want it, it's there and it's at least available still, like we're saying. So,
Right. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll see Black Friday discount or something.
well, that and I agree. I mean, it would have. I mean, honestly, for $125, it probably would have been cooler if they would have done a 8-pack, have the
Yeah.
He-Man and have the Skeletor and have it honor the 40th, and you're good to go. And that I think people would have been like, yeah, like even at
Yeah.
150
Like,
for that,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
that's still not too far off.
and somebody was saying, "Oh, if they reduce the price, it's a slap in the face to everybody who paid full price." That's how things work. Any item at any store, retail or online or not, stuff gets reduced. I mean,
Well, when Origins came out, there were people going on eBay trying to buy up as much as they could because they couldn't find them anywhere. There's people out
yeah.
there that bought a Skeletor for $50. And then
Hmm.
they're on clearance like a year later, and you're just kind of like, what are you expecting to get a refund from the person that sold it to you on eBay because you can find it for $10 over at Walmart now? No, it doesn't work like that.
Right. Yeah.
right.
So, well, so like you said, congrats to people who did buy it and who are enjoying it. Otherwise, if you want one figure, buy the one figure on eBay, or so you don't have to buy the whole set, or buy the whole set and piece them out. I guess whatever floats your boat. But yeah, I think a Skeletor set would make sense. I would love to see a New Adventures Skeletor, not because we've seen New Adventures Skeletor like the toy version, not the cartoon. So that would be unique. Um, and let's have it at retail. Sell the set at retail, or break it up. Don't make it a 4-pack. Just give us the individual figures at retail without taking up slots intended for a wave of Origins figures. You know. Um, and I'm kind of waiting on hearing news about like a 40th anniversary Masterverse Skeletor figure. I mean, why not? of course we're going to get a Skeletor figure to go with our 40th anniversary He-Man figure. It's weird. Why don't they just
Really
announce
surprised
them
they didn't
both?
put it out.
I mean, they will, and yeah.
I mean, hopefully they're going to announce it, but it should have come out with the 40th anniversary He-Man because they were both released on the same exact day.
I mean, I kind of feel like they're doing this to make you feel like the 2-pack is, has more value. Like, oh, this is your only chance to get the Skeletor set, or the Skeletor figure from this set. But I don't know. I will mention that somebody shared a picture of an Origins He-Man figure where they took the head and I think the chest armor from the 40th anniversary He-Man, and they customized an Origins He-Man figure with, maybe it was the what's his name, Coldor or whatever, with the golden bracers, and he just looks amazing. I'll have to send a picture to you guys. But yeah, there's definitely a good use for that figure. But I don't know. What are you thinking about the 40th anniversary He-Man? And because like you were talking about head sculpts, like anytime they do a human face in that Masterverse line, it just ends up looking like a complete stranger. Like, who is this person? Yep. This is not the character. This looks like some cosplayer who is pretending to be this character.
The closest.
They need to hire someone who can do the faces better in Mattel, figuring they're trying to do this all in-house.
Yeah, the closest ones that I've actually been impressed with were, out of the retail ones I've seen, are I didn't mind Fisto, and I thought Man at Arms was pretty decent. But beyond that, I like even the new Eternia line. There's still something a little off there, and it's like I feel like every time they're doing well, maybe we can do it right this time, and then they put out that, and then they hear the response or whatever. I have yet to see that. Like, that's part of why when the line came out, I was initially excited about it, and then when I saw what it was, I was like, oh, okay, this isn't like, because there was that feeling of this could be a retail version of classics, but then there were things about it that, as I've seen, I'm like, this still feels like every single character I want to go get a third party head to replace what Mattel's doing, and that's not even. It's like that's going to be even more than buying the figure, because that's a custom deal and all that. So, I personally, it would have been kind of cool to honor the first wave for the 40th and have it be like, I get that He-Man is your star. I get the Skeletor is also the marquee name, but it would have been kind of cool if they could have done like a 40th anniversary of the 8-pack of the 8-pack figures, and just have them looking as close to vintage as possible with what they're doing, and just giving it that, like, these are the ones that started it all, and from there everything happened, and blow it up like that, and not doing like a pack of them, but doing it where they're individual and you can pick them up, and they're honoring the line because that's what started it. And then you also have the Mark Taylor vibe in it because he did do the designs on a lot of that, and it feels like home for a lot of our fans and the fandom of Masters. But I was, when I saw the 40th one, I'm like, the way that they did the dry brushing was like, oh, so he needs a bath. And I know they toned it down, but when I saw it initially, I was like, I don't want to touch him like that. It just looks like something. It looks like a kid rolled around in the dirt all afternoon, and they're like, "Here's your toy back, sir." It's like, "Oh, thanks, kid." So yeah, I don't know. Like, I will never be able to put my finger on what is not working for me with what they're doing right now. But it just, none of it is clicking the way that I was thinking it would about 2 years ago, and it hasn't grabbed me. I've gotten a few figures here and there. and I like the ones that I got, but it's not like I'm buying them all up like crazy right now.
Right.
So and for being a fan, it's like it does feel like foreign to me that these
Yeah.
figures are out, but I'm not excited about this.
Yeah, I really want to be excited for this line, and but and it's frustrating that this isn't a Horseman line, and
Yeah.
this is all in house, and the articulation and etc. But then it's like you even like Hordak looks like a weird, like what's going on with his head, and can they ever make a decent Skeletor head? Like
The two pack's the closest they've gotten to that for my taste, at least, and the fact that his jaw moved and all that, and I was like, that is the first out of anything I've seen them do with that character, where I'm like, you are so close to what I think works. It's scary, but that vintage He-Man face they're doing he looks like a simian. He looks like, I mean, I know he's a barbarian from the jungle if you go with that version, if you don't go with Filmation, but even then, it's like he still had that kind of. He was at least like somewhat handsome in kind of like a like a bouncer kind of way, like he had that. And in this one, it just looks like I know nothing. I punch things, I pick stuff up, I put it down, like. So I don't know. I don't know a good like this is what they could do to grab me. I just feel like I hate doing it. I'm always going to this, but it's the whole the Horsemen really did put some heart and soul into the stuff they worked on between 2000X and Classics.
Yeah.
And both lines I could still go back to and really love something about what they did with those lines to make it feel special in one way or another. And these just feel like it feels corporate to me to this day. And it's like I love that they're out there for the fans. I've talked to many people who are so happy that the Masterverse line is there because classics are way out of their budget. And I'm thrilled that people who haven't been able to get classics can do this, and it's affordable for them. $20 versus $100 for one figure. I get it, but
Right.
there is that. Every time I hear somebody say that, I'm happy for them, but I'm also like, it just feels like this was designed in the dark by somebody, and they're hoping for the best when the lights came on. Versus with the Horsemen, yeah, like you see that and you're like, that's my childhood again. This is amazing, and I'm not trying to bow to them constantly, but they did it in a way where it worked for me. And this stuff now is just like, I'm glad it's there, but it is not working for me the same way, unfortunately.
Well, it makes me wonder. I know the Horsemen, they are fans of the Masters,
Yeah.
and you could see the love.
Mm-hmm.
Are what are these designers saying? Oh, here's a He-Man, just design it. It's you don't have that same love there. I mean, we're getting it with the artwork. Axel's knocking that out of the
Yeah,
park.
absolutely. Yeah, and also again, Nate Barch, he did the artwork for the new Eternia Beastman, He-Man, Skeletor, Zodak, Too Bad. And those, every time I see that stuff, it gives me like goosebumps, and I want to go get those figures because the box art looks amazing.
Yeah, that's what's making me go for some of the
Sure.
Masterverse is just the box art. It's not the figure because something's not right with the figure.
Here's the weird thing though. I'm somebody that when I see the new Eternia stuff, that's more my speed in what they're doing compared to doing the old favorites the way that we knew and loved them, because I am one of those people where I don't need to own every single series version of every single figure. I can't, number one. And on top of that, number two, I don't have an interest in chasing after vintage anymore because I had the vintage that I had as a kid. They're gone now, but the memories live on, and I'm completely fine that I don't have those. And I had 2000X, and I still have them on card actually. But and then I have classics and stuff. But I'm just at the point where it's like that's part of my problem too. Is I wanted to see something we haven't seen yet, and like each version we've been given something to make you go, Well, like in the case vintage versus classics, it's like vintage as a kid, you held that in your hand and it was huge. At least for me, I was 3, 4 years old getting my first He-Man figure, and it was huge in my hand for being that age. But then as I grow up, you're like, oh, this is so tiny. Then you hold a classics figure. I'm like, this is what I thought I was holding the whole time. It's that, you're visiting your childhood, but through your adult eyes in that way. And 2000X, all the details and making it look more warrior-esque and barbaric looking and battle worn and hardened and all that stuff. And I mean, that was amazing. And then this, it's like the new Eternia now is finally where I'm like, well, at least you're giving me something I haven't had yet on my shelf. And that looks kind of cool. I like that we're getting like a Mark Taylor Viking-esque He-Man that isn't Vicor this time around. We're getting, and it's like, okay, it's going to do its own thing. It's going to be like almost like the multiverse idea. We're going to go there. Here's a different version of He-Man, Skeletor, Beastman. And that is, I'm somebody that I want to see something. That's why the CGI works for me. It's tell me the story of something I love, but don't let me know everything that's about to happen, because I already know that version. If you tell it to me in a new way and I don't know all the answers, I am going to be more interested, and I am going to want to stick around to find out what's going on next. And the new Eternia one is the one that's more that for me than anything else that Mattel's putting out. But even then, it's like the face sculpts aren't quite there and all that stuff. So there is that feeling of, I wouldn't mind getting them, but I'm gonna be frustrated at the same time with those issues. And it's not a QC thing. It's I feel like the sculptors they have maybe don't love it the way that the fans do, or maybe they're doing the best they can, but they aren't on the same level as like some of the Hasbro GI Joe line, for instance. That's their face sculpts are really freaking great. Like you look at those and you're like, I can see what character that is without even having to look twice at it or whatever. And then you see the master stuff and it just feels like it's not, it's always just close, but it's always not there. It just drives me crazy.
Yeah. Well, and every time there's, with all these Masterverse figures, I kind of think, sometimes I think like, okay, is this the only version of this character we're going to get, or can I wait until we get one down the line that's the actual vintage style? And then and you've got, okay, so you started out with Revelation designs, but now you've got new Eternia in the mix, and then you've got some hints at the classic version. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to gauge, like, if you're just interested in the vintage designs, it's like, okay, is this going to fill that slot? Maybe not. Are we going to get another one of these? I don't know. The character selection is just kind of odd. I'm still not used to this new Eternia thing, But speaking of which, Kelly, you mentioned that we're going to get some new Eternia comic books.
That's right. Dark Horse Comics released about a week, I think it was 2 weeks ago on Motu Tuesday, about 4 to 5 pages of the new comic book. It didn't say, I can't remember if it said when it's going to be releasing, but it is a totally different style comic book than what we've seen. Because I noticed the artwork, it took me a little while for me to understand that it was a Masters of the Universe art comic book, because the artwork didn't even scream Motu to me.
Yeah, it looks at first glance pretty odd. It looks like, I don't know, seems to be 2 or 3 different art styles going on here, but yeah, it's
Very anime. I got that feeling. Or at least trying to go anime.
yeah. One, I mean, there's Yeah, very, very hard style. There's I'm seeing then I'm seeing this style that's aiming to be very realistic. Um, I don't know. I'm personally not thrilled with the art at all. But maybe they'll end up giving us a good storyline. You know,
That's
that'll.
what I'm hoping for. And maybe the storyline will help explain why it's all these different art styles.
Yeah. Because aside from the bio, you know, we don't have mini comics for the new Eternia stuff. So this will at least give us some kind of story to tie to those new Eternia figures. You were going to say something?
I was just gonna say my theory, and I don't know any more than everybody else, but my theory is it could be like an anthology book or something, because the different art styles kind of make me go, maybe this is a story that's telling one thing, because it is like 1 minute in the previews you see here's the Viking He-Man, and then the next one you have the battle armor He-Man, and then you have this image or this page of the sorceress talking with Zodak, and that art style is more what I would want to see the whole book look like.
Mm-hmm.
And the other ones have this like the best description I've had anybody say so far when I've talked to them about it is it reminded them of looking at Heavy Metal magazine, because it has that European comics kind of flavor to some of that art, and I agree with that. But it does make me go, that's a heck of a storyline you're having already. If that's one issue that they're promoting, and you have, here's the way that this art looks here, this art, this art. So maybe it is like an anthology where you're going to get maybe 2 or 3 stories in a single comic, and it's picking up the ball where they're not doing the mini comics for the new Eternia line or whatever. Or it could be almost like the multiverse mini series that we had, where it's visiting different dimensions and those dimensions are drawn that way. Like maybe Zodak has to cross dimensions in order to do something to balance the cosmic balance or something, which is why he's a part of it. It's all theory, but I'm not. I'm like David. I'm not 100% thrilled about the art, but there is that part of me that's excited just because, hey, we've had so many crossovers with
Mm-hmm.
Masters up until this point because of the DC stuff. We've had so much of Superman dropping by and all this stuff that I'm like, if we're gonna tell some flat out, here's a Masters of the Universe story for the first time in a long time since like the Eternia War, I'm good with that. Like I actually would want to sit down and at least read it, even if the art doesn't really grab me. Maybe the story will.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
That's all we can do.
Yeah. Boy, I tell you, I've been uh, last few weeks. I'll be sitting there working on something, and I'll get some idea for that Age of Wonder comic story that I still want to get back to. And I've
I
just been,
remember that. That was
yeah,
your quarantine project. I remember
right, right. Well, and
that.
I keep writing down the notes and collecting them, and yeah, I want to get back to it. And uh, I didn't finish the first book only because um, I felt like I'd be painting myself into a corner. Like you have to plan out the whole story and kind of figure things out ahead of time so that you don't, I feel like that's a very important slot to fill. That
Absolutely.
so anyway, but yeah, it'll come back. It'll be fun. Just not right now.
No, that's a great thing. Like one of my biggest things with about that multiverse one with Anti Eternia He-Man
Mm-hmm.
was when we found out that he was writing it issue by issue, and that's why the last issue felt like what the everything's happening and what that like when I found that out, I got mad because I'm like, that how is it you got to write this and you couldn't plant seeds leading to that? Like that was driving
Right.
me so crazy. So if you have the chance to go back and revise and do that stuff, it will only make anyone who's enjoying it happier for it, because they'll see those things and they'll go like, hey, that's great, they thought this through, this is so
Mm-hmm.
cool, and it doesn't feel made up with each issue or with each posting as you go. And I mean,
Exactly.
I'm not trying to knock Tim Seeley. He's making a living doing it. But when I found that out, I was like, that's why that made no sense to me when I'm reading that book. And why are you doing it to me? That would have been kind of cool if we would have had, oh, here's He-Man going to the different places and he's meeting the new He-Man, and that, it's like,
Yeah.
how come that couldn't have been like a 1 page or even half a page at the end of each issue leading towards something, and you're like, well, what's that all about? And instead, out of nowhere, He-Force, what the hell is that? Or whatever it was called. So yeah.
So yeah, today we got to look at some of the packaging for some of the figures that we've seen at SDCC. I'm sorry, at San
San
Diego.
Diego Comic-Con.
So there's the new Evelyn figure with this the bat helmet.
Yeah, sorceress version
Yeah.
of Evil Lyn from Revelations. We got to see Frosta.
Yeah, and Stratos in his packaging, who looks really striking with, it's kind of a mix between his vintage design and elements of the mini comic design. Very cool, and he's even got his staff. I don't know if it's just a short version of the staff or it's a full staff. But yeah, Frosta and Roboto, which sadly does not come with a poncho, which he totally should.
Somebody also mentioned he should have had a hammer hand.
Oh, Hammerhand, yeah, absolutely.
Because he comes with both halves of the sword, and that was one of his big moment in the series was he got to forge them, and why not give him a hammer? So that was when the minute I saw that, I'm like, that would how is that something that got missed?
Right. Well,
And
and
the
I'm
wouldn't have cost them that much more because that's soft goods.
sure for the
And they've been
poncho.
incorporating soft goods in the Masterverse already.
Mm-hmm.
True. Yeah, and so far it seems all the accessories that come with the Masterverse figures belong to that figure. I remember in the classics line, you might get a figure that has accessories in it that are completely unrelated to that figure.
Yeah.
Which it's frustrating in one way, but in another, it kind of makes sense. Like, well, instead of just putting some random accessory in with this figure that we really don't want or need, let's use this chance to give some other figure an accessory that they would really want.
Right.
So, so I would like to see some of that in this line, frankly. But yeah, I mean, Roboto definitely should have been a more of a deluxe offering with the poncho, with the hammer hand. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because I know also you'll have a lot of the classics collectors looking for the Roboto because so many Robotos in the classic line had reverse shoulders or like mine came with a cracked body.
Right.
I had
That
mine back and they had no more.
that was exactly what I was gonna say. Like for me, I don't own Roboto because I heard so much about that problem that I left that one alone. And that would be my chance to finally get something. And he's a little taller, but it works within that scale. I kind of dig that he'd be a little bit bigger, being the robot and stuff. And I, I love the 2000X Roboto to this day. That's still my favorite version. But this I feel like is a good. It has that vintage vibe, but it also has a little bit of the anime-esque of that series as well, plus Revelation. That I'm like, it would fit in pretty well, I think.
Because I figured I'm going to be getting that to fill in that spot. And then Frosta, I definitely want to get because the classics version, I love most of the sculpt
Mm-hmm.
except that face and the colors were off.
Right. Yeah.
And the Masterverse, it looks like the colors are right. I can't see the face too well. The hair on Froster is still a little too dark. it could have been just the angle I'm looking at it. But that was one that was on my list of I need to replace my classics version.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I'm personally not thrilled with the new Frosta head again. It looks like some random gal cosplaying as Frosta. But
It's still better than what we got from the classics.
you mean the blow up
It was
doll?
one of the few times that the horseman dropped the ball.
It is. I mean, and again, very rare. But
Say
yeah,
that.
yeah. So, but yeah. Otherwise, it's great to finally get some kind of update to Frosta for sure.
Because she's one that I know a lot of the people who collected classics, they were upset.
Yeah.
And she was never re-released, not even as in her Filmation version. So this one, I have a feeling, will be a harder to find one
Yeah,
because
maybe.
you'll have more collectors looking for her.
Yeah, so people are getting their Tila Zoar 2-packs in the mail. Very excited for that one. In the Origins line. And, I picked up a couple of those sets myself. And Tila, the yellow, is very yellow. I mean, it kind of makes the figure look cheap. I really was hoping that they would give us the shiny gold, metallic gold this time. So that's another figure I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna have to customize this one with some gold paint. Otherwise, it's nice that we get a head with a ponytail. The head sculpt doesn't look weird. The hands are a little loose on this one, which is too bad. And it's kind of odd getting a yellow snake staff and a yellow sword, but the shield is red, just like the regular Tila figure, which is kind of confusing. I'm not sure, why they didn't just go all yellow if they were going to do that. But and then the skin tone's lighter, very light, which is not bad. Otherwise, it's a generally decent figure, I think. What do you guys think?
I don't have it, but I have seen photos, and I agree with what you were saying 100% on a lot of the plastic being bright yellow
Mhm.
on her armor. That bugs me about that line. Still, it has that. At least do like I get in the original. The only one that had any paint apps for their armor on the hands was Triclops basically, and that was like, holy crap, they actually painted those in. This is amazing. But I'm almost like at the point of going, if you can't make it look somewhat cool, don't do it either, because I would
Yep.
have been happier to not see that. Because again, these aren't really. I get the kids want to play with them, but collectors are enjoying these. This is like, they're able to get their childhood back again. And when you see stuff like that, to me, it just feels like it's a kid toy, and it really makes me not as excited to collect something like that. Versus, I mean, even the Masterverse stuff has better paint apps than what they're doing there. So I was a little disappointed on that. And the other thing that I was thinking actually while you were talking was, it's still weird how after all this time we had the huge Zor as a kid, and we could play with the giant Zor and Screech, like these giant eagles, like in Lord of the Rings. But most people know it would be the sorceress turning into that, and it's the typical falcon that we know flying around. And
Mhm.
it's funny that they went there again, because then it kind of muddies the water in the mythology of what the heck is that supposed to mean now again. Like, I like it. I've always thought it was cool to do that with the birds and have them be huge like the cats, and make it into, well, it's a mythical fantasy world or whatever. But the minute Filmation toned it down to now she's just like a typical falcon, then I'm like, well, that confuses what the heck, like as a kid it was confusing. I'm like, they're still pushing that even to this day. So I'm wondering how many kids are out there looking at the toy, looking at the TV and going, wait a minute, what? Like I did when I was a kid.
Right.
But I like that they also kept it that size because it brings back the roots, going back to the Big Jim line, that it was a reuse of a previous mold.
Yeah.
Just like Battle Cat.
It's I agree completely, because like I personally would rather not see it any other way, because that's it's playing on, this is what you had as a kid. But it's still like there is this almost people going, well, the figures they're offering, the waves they're doing, and it's like, there's a confusion about that, and it's like the confusion with that is still always going to be there, because now here's this release and it's that way. And like I said, I love the big versions, and I love that they had the missiles and all that even when I was a kid, because it made me want to play with those figures. And then the minute the Filmation came in, I'm like, well, I don't need Zora until I have to worry about the Sorceress needing to call He-Man now, so I'll just put that aside or whatever. I'm like, I rewrote the way I played with everything.
Yeah.
I just hang it up in the corner.
Yeah, basically, it's there in Grayskull.
Far enough away from your castle so it looks like you're doing force projection on how you're seeing everything.
Exactly.
I like the big Zoar. I mean, I'm really hoping, and I'm kind of wondering, like, okay, when are we gonna get the regular size Zoar and Screech? But without having to just use our classics versions on display. When will be the appropriate opportunity for that? Maybe when they release some Filmation figures. I don't know, but yeah, I've always digged the. I had fond memories as a kid with the Zoar figure, and I like that you can. It's got the button on the back of the leg, so you can make the wings flap up and down.
It's still doing it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
See, that was definitely one of my favorite things as a kid, is having that and flying around with it. It's like that and Point Dread having the handle on the back, because it took away that whole, here's my hand trying to fly. No, it's like, here it is flying around, and I can just it's like I CGI'd my hand out and I was just playing with it. It just felt great. So that's awesome. They're still doing that. I see. I appreciate things like that. I do, and I think it's great that they're incorporating that with Zora, especially, because that always was a fun part of that figure for me.
Yeah. Getting a look at the packaging for Wave 11 of Origins, set for next year, I believe, and it's got Ratlore, Snake Armor, He-Man, Boltman from the Sunman figure series, and Cobra Khan, and it's got the Snake Men packaging. So I think that's really interesting, and I think maybe mock collectors would say, "Wait a minute, I don't want my, I've been collecting all these packages that look the same and consistent, and now you're switching it over to Snake Man. What's that all about?" But I think it's fun. I think it's a neat thing. Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember if the original back in the 80s if they switched it, but I remember for the 2000X they did switch it too when they went to the Snake Men. So there is precedent in our franchise that it's been done. It's a nice little refresh.
Yeah. Well, and you know how they've got the stickers for each faction. So, like Boltman, you've got a Sunman sticker on the bubble, right? And Cobra Khan, Ratlore, you've got a Snake Men sticker on the bubble, right? Because that's their faction they're from.
Right.
But with Snake Armor He-Man, it's got the 2000X sticker. Wait, no, it doesn't. It has a Snake Men sticker.
Yeah, it does.
So why wouldn't it have the 2000X sticker like Skeletor and Evelyn? They're giving them a Snake Man sticker. That's not cool.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe someone messed up when they put on that sticker for the photo.
Or that's how they'll come out. I mean, we'll see. This should be interesting. Like, come on, guys. This is a faction sticker. This is, or at the very least, like showing you what show it's from.
Yeah.
So whatever, we'll see.
It's that thing of what, you know, like again, it's confusing because it makes sense. Like if they had that figure out when I was a kid, that figure probably would have been like, do I use battle armor or snake armor today? That would, you know, that would have been the big controversy. But yeah, like now it's like, okay, he would have been in that line, but he wasn't originally. He would have been 2000X. Okay.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
just kind of sit back down and you're like, I'm just going to be quiet now. I don't know.
Well, okay, now remember from San Diego Comic-Con, we got to look at all these characters in the big case with the Eternia playset.
Yeah.
And I'm going to look it up real quick because when it showed you Ratlore, we got to look at the back of the Ratlore figure, and I could have sworn that they've changed the design of the back of the figure, but let me check though. Get to the bottom of that. I'll look for that. But yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, so we've also, by the way, received photos for the new Snake Armor Skeletor figure.
Mm-hmm.
Which that's totally out of left field for me. Like, okay, I mean, wasn't that one of the
Skeletor trying to become a part of Cobra over at Hasbro? It looked like Serpentor armor.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm like, wait a minute, are we crossing lines here?
Well, and I kind of like the sculpt of Skeletor's face that's hiding behind the actual armor. I thought that was kind of an interesting look. Where is it? Yeah, but my first thought of that figure was, okay, he looks like a football player. Probably that.
He looks like a tackle dummy. No, like and that's another case in point though. That should be hopefully they make that a 2000X, but it'll probably be under the Snake Man. And
Yeah.
it's like the co-opting of it. But yeah, like I would have never figured they would have done that figure, considering, you know, he was like F to G list of people wanting that probably in their 2000X collection back in those days. That was just a random variant that they threw out there. And now it's like, oh, well, it's Snake. We got to do that. So it's like, all right.
Right.
This Origins is kind of doing what Classics was trying to do in a way, I think, where like Classics was trying to explain and wrap things up in the mythology of how they were telling the story at times with the bios at least and all that. And in the case of this, it's like they're just going, if it had anything to do with snakes, we're putting it in this one, and that's it. Now it's everything snakes for this, and it's like, all right, it works, I guess. So
Yeah.
Yeah. 2023 is the year of the snake for Motu.
For
yeah.
sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, what's this going to be the story? Like, he puts the armor on to help him fight the snakes, or to what? To
Trying to get
become
back
one
to
of them?
Snake Mountain.
I guess maybe. Yeah. Attack on Snake Mountain. Um, you know, I was looking for that picture of the back of the Rattler figure, and I think I found it, but it could just be one of those custom Snakeman figures that they put in the case. Right? It's some of those Snake Men are just customs, and they're not going to be actual offerings in the toy line.
Right.
Which it's kind of like, okay, I get it. It's fun. I like that you did that, but at the same time, no, don't do that because it's going to confuse us. We're not going to be sure what you intend to be offering, and you're going to confuse them with other things. Yeah.
I completely agree with that. Anything that they put out should have been something that will be released. And like customs to me should not even be on the table for a corporate company.
Mm.
When they could be doing this and having this is stuff that we're going to be offering throughout the year. When I heard that, I'm like, this isn't like, the toy show down the street, where people are selling some customs or whatever. This should be legit. These are the corporate offerings we're doing. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I don't know. Maybe that might, if they had a good response with those, maybe people will go, hey, I actually want that on my shelf, and maybe they'll offer them somewhere within this.
An army builder.
Yeah,
Sure. I mean, I would hope that they would come out with an army builder for the Snake Men, right? Just like they did with the Horde Troopers, the Eternian Guards. Now they're doing the the Skeleton Warrior army builder, which we haven't seen the packaging for it. We don't know exactly how they're going to offer it, right? Whether it's going to be a 2-pack, or if more likely they'll just package it like as a single offering, like they did with the Eternian Guard, and give them some accessories, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. So, in fact, I don't think with the army builders, they haven't offered any 2-pack for army builders in the Origins line yet, have they? It's
just that one PowerCon exclusive.
Oh, that, yeah.
Had the 3 Horde Troopers. Sorry, the 2 Horde Troopers.
In different colors. So, yeah, I mean, I guess, maybe they just continue that trend of offering them as singles. Maybe they figure it helps the sales because it's a lower price point. I would see that. I could totally see that.
With that line, it makes complete sense. I mean, with classics, you were still going like $60-$70 for some of those, and then when they went on the secondary market, then here's a mortgage payment. Like trying to find those. The ones I wanted the most actually were the Snake Men 2-pack when I got into classics, and I had to go through a bunch of hoops to get those because those ended up being so sought after, and I had no idea they were going to be that difficult. But in a line where your price point is still reasonable, I mean, okay, $20 and I bought 2 army builders, or $30 and I got 3 whatever. I forget what the price point is, but it's not going to be like $70-$80 for just 2 figures at least. So you're lucky in that respect with that line.
Right. Yeah. Well, and so we're also getting the last but not least, a set of Road Ripper and Mechanic, and we've been treated to some photos of that as well. And right away, I'm hearing quite a few. I don't mind it myself, but a lot of people are concerned that not only did they take away Mechanic's action features, so we're given kind of an extension piece for his neck, like we did with the classics figure, but they also took away the ripcord, the action feature of the vintage Road Ripper vehicle.
Well, if I remember, they also changed the name because they took away that action feature. That could have been a safety issue, though. Why Mattel decided not to do it, because you don't see many ripcord toys anymore.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
So
and
it really was a
price pointed
safety
too.
issue. I mean, Mechanic, they went the same route that Classics did with the extender.
Yeah.
That's separate.
Was really
keep the price point down. Since it is using Stinkor's armor, it probably has just the generic buck underneath instead of producing a brand new torso.
Right. Yeah, and I was really hoping that they would give us a deluxe offering for Mechanic with a working neck action feature. But it's still fine. It's still Mechanic. He's still badass. And I'm glad that they gave us the actual vac metal eyes, the mirror eyes, basically.
Yep.
So that's a good touch. It would have been a disappointment if it was just just silver paint. But yeah, they went with the full shiny eyes, and of course the design, the actual look of both toys is spot on to the vintage ones. I mean, they look so nostalgic, and very happy with that.
And the Road Ripper is coming with an alternate headpiece too.
Which is butt ugly. I'm sorry, but it's like the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Yeah.
At least they're giving that option to those who like something that's butt ugly.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a totally missed opportunity, right? Because I love what they did with uh, the stickers that you could actually replace on the
The
sky
sky.
sled. That was
Yes.
brilliant. The little panels you could take off
Hmm.
and swap
Yeah.
them. Brilliant toy design. This, not so much. I mean, it doesn't even have like paint or stickers to decorate the head. It's aside from the just god awful sculpt. I mean, I don't know what. I kept looking online to see if there was some kind of 80s like concept art or something that would account for why it looked like that. I couldn't find anything. Maybe there's something out there. Maybe it's a design taken from an old DC comic, or
Or golden books or
something.
the
Yeah.
coloring book. More like a coloring book. It's sort of like, do you include the paintbrush and the paint so we can finish this, please?
Right. Right. Well, and instead of if you're gonna, if you're gonna give us such an ugly head, don't. And what? Give us an extra neck
Yeah,
extension piece or something.
yeah, because one extension piece is not enough for Mecha Neck. How is he
Right.
supposed
No.
to peek into Castle Grayskull to see the sorceress taking a shower?
Oh my. Yeah.
I love how it's not me that takes us there. It's always Kelly. No, I like personally. I like that when Classics did that. I like that because it really did show like that is a pretty epic look when you put both of those pieces together and you have it on the figure and you're like, holy crap, he's a giraffe. It's amazing because
Yeah. Yeah.
the original one it almost just felt like a Jack in the Box effect to me when I was a kid, and I like that. But they're definitely like you need like Kelly was saying, you need more than one piece to really get that effect properly. So yeah.
I mean, they even gave us the little pizza cutter wheel on the front of Road Ripper. I mean, it's such a great nostalgic piece. And I was pointing out to people, like, I get it. It's a bummer that it's doesn't, and I mean, these are official photos we're getting. It's still possible that we're getting an action feature with Road Ripper. I personally haven't heard that they're officially taking out, but it doesn't. I really don't think that they're going to include it. But you go on eBay. I was looking, and it's not that expensive for a Road Ripper that looks like that has its stickers, is in great condition, has the ripcord. It's not that expensive, so I don't think it's a huge. Really, I don't think it's a huge deal that it doesn't have the ripcord. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The wheels look pretty light. It's a very light gray. Come to think of it, I'm gonna check. Yeah, the vintage Road Ripper, those wheels were quite a bit darker than this vintage version, or than this Origins version. So that's another step back. I really prefer the darker gray to this very flat, light gray of the wheels. You know, and the vintage one had more stickers than the Origins one. So, yeah. But yeah, interesting that they gave us these two toys in a kind of a gift set fashion, right?
Well, probably hitting the stores just in time for Christmas.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
And I've also seen that the CGI Castle Grayskull is hitting people's hands now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I've seen a few of them where they're putting them up in their toy rooms.
It's an interesting design. It almost looks like it should be like a snow cone maker or something like that. But, you know.
Where do we set the ice and where's the crank?
Yeah, exactly. I'll put it right next to my peanuts one.
Oh.
But yeah, looks fun. It's a really interesting design, and I'm sure kids will love it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, figuring it has the lights and the sound.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it is for a new generation, their version of Castle Grayskull.
Mm-hmm. I want to get one.
Yeah.
David's rolling his eyes right now, but I want to get that one in particular because
sure.
I look, I enjoy the newness. Like if they come out with a Snake Mountain 2 for that, I would be like, oh man, I'd be like giggling like with glee because the designs of those on that show are so new that I'm like, I enjoy that they took a spin on it that was not expected. So yeah, and my son actually he was talking to me about getting one because he wants to put it next to my classics one, and then that's his, you know. And I'm like, yeah, that's completely cool. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah, I think that's cool that the CGI series got a playset, and makes me wonder when are we gonna get a castle in the Masterverse toy line
In a movie year.
in a movie year. Oh, I hate that. I hate that saying.
Hey,
well, it should be
Scott.
close.
we've heard that phrase in Motu.
Yeah. Well, it is a movie year. They're producing they're supposed to be producing right now the live action movie for Netflix.
Exactly.
But you
no
know,
other cast announcements.
News about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The most I can say is the Nee brothers who are directing it. I got to watch the what's it called, The Lost Island with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum because I was just curious based on them directing Masters. I was like, well, I want to at least know something they did before they do, you know, like my favorite brand as a kid, my favorite toy line. And it was entertaining. I'm not going to say it was a bad movie. Actually, I was pleasantly surprised that yeah, it's kind of like a popcorn romantic flick. And I'm like, all right, they gave you the feel of, you know, Romancing the Stone or some of those movies from the 80s that are the couple are on the adventure and by the end they end up, you know, falling for each other. Well, all right, fine. That's, you know, it works. So now I'm like, okay, so now how are you going to bring it to Masters? But we haven't heard any other casting announcements, nothing. It's just here's this guy that I've never seen him in anything to this point. I think he's supposed to be in West Side Story, the one that Steven Spielberg did, but that's it's like I don't know who this guy is from anybody else. So it'll be interesting to see if it works and if he stays on.
Right. Yeah. We'll see what's going on. That one.
Then will there be a movie line?
Yes.
That's my big question because
sure
that'll confuse the hell out of everybody because we're getting the. I mean, we are getting the movie He-Man and Skeletor in the Masterverse finally. And all this, and it's like, okay, now we're going to have a new movie. He's going to look different in that, I'm sure too, because they're not going to just go legit the way that we would expect it to look. So
I mean, I don't know. They could either give us a whole new toy line and make them and give it kind of a 2000X treatment in that the sculpts are more unique to each character, if you know what I mean. Or they could, and I really hope they don't do this, they could say, okay, here's a bunch of movie figures for the Origins line. Barf, no thank you. Or the Masterverse toy line. Great. We've got another thing dividing the, another pot dividing the slots.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, the people who want the vintage style, people who want the Revelation style, people who want the new Eternia style, and then people who want the movie style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We'll see.
Hey,
Or maybe
we
we'll
should
just
all
go.
be
Yeah.
thankful for one thing. At least we still have window boxes. For
Window box.
they did not
Yeah.
do what Hasbro's done with their Legends with the closed box yet.
Yeah.
So at least we can still see if we want to get the figure or if it's a lousy paint job or a lousy face sculpt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There were some with the new Eternia, especially that I saw people posting where like the He-Man without the helmet, his eyes are almost like painted on the top of his nose and off to
Yep.
the side. I was like, oh my god, you bought that? That's horrible. Like,
Yeah.
how
Did
the hell did that get through
you get it at
QC?
the store?
That's what I'm saying. Like, if I would have, I do that with everything when I buy it. Like, even the ones for my kid, I'm looking at him trying to get the best one. I'm like, I know he's going to beat the
Mhm.
crap out of these, but at least I know I'm trying to get him a good looking one for the
Right.
beginning of it, at least.
Well, and that's really important because, like, I remember, like, with Orko's wave of figures, I ordered several sets of them because the quality was terrible, and you had like Orko, a lot of the Orkos had the hat on sideways or something like that, and a lot of paint issues. And by the way, Hasbro, you were talking about the new Dungeons and Dragons figures,
Mm-hmm.
which they should have come out with when we were enjoying our classics line.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still happy that we're to death that we're getting them.
Well,
No window boxes.
no, Hasbro's getting rid of all window boxes,
Yeah,
which is making it extremely hard.
yeah.
Because when I ran into Target, I saw a few of them. People were opening them up just to see what they were getting.
Mm-hmm.
I can't blame them. I mean,
I
it's
can very easily. I blame
well,
you, Hasbro.
No. I mean the people buying them. I'm not.
Oh,
It's like for me when I would look, like you could just look on the pegs when they had the plastic bubble, and you could go through almost everyone on the peg trying to find one that didn't have derpy eyes half the time. So it's like if it's a Spider-Man figure, okay, that's not that big of a deal. But if it's like somebody like, Wolverine or Captain America or whatever, or especially some of the women figures where it really matters where their eye placement is when they do that part of it. I mean, geez, good luck. So yeah, like I blame Hasbro more than I get what their point was, but it doesn't work with what we collect at
Right.
all. It doesn't make sense.
And it looks weird when you're going down the action figure aisle and you see these closed boxes next to window boxes.
It's almost like a placeholder. Like you're supposed to take that up to the counter and get the actual figure because they don't want to put them on the peg. Like back in the 80s, we used to have take the card up to the thing at Toys R Us, and then they give you the video game out of the security place. That's kind of how it feels when I looked at them on the peg like a couple weeks ago. I was like, yeah, this just feels wrong. Like you shouldn't. This is no. Like for action figures, it makes no sense. With vehicles, yeah, box makes sense. Playset makes sense, but
Not
eh,
for action figures.
exactly.
action figures. It's like how you go to the store and you'll find Super 7 figures, like
Mm-hmm.
at a comic store, and they're all in the brown boxes. Nobody wants to, nobody who hasn't researched them ahead of time and seen the pictures of the actual product on the websites and Facebook groups. Nobody's gonna walk up and say, "Oh, this brown box that says Donatello. Oh, I can't wait to buy him. Look at that beautiful brown box."
Exactly. There's a FYE near my house that I go to every now and then, and there is still an Ultimate Splinter that still hasn't moved because of that reason.
Yeah.
I'm positive it has to be for that because when you look at that box, it really, like, that brown box just does not invite you to want to buy it. It just looks like, here's a brown box with Splinter's
Yeah.
face on it. Okay, you know, like,
Some
until you get it out, you don't know.
Yeah, and then some stores are taking the figures out of the boxes, and
Yeah.
so that, and then it's like, okay, so the slip cover's been thrown away, the brown box is thrown away, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But at least it sells.
Yeah.
I know
So,
the comic book store I go to, they'll take it out, but they're really good with putting all that behind the counter
That's good.
mm-hmm.
because they're putting the figures in glass cases.
Nice. So yeah, but yeah, we're into fall now, and you know, things are gonna slow down, and people, like to relax a little more in the fall and eat some pumpkin pie and get in some eggnog, some turkey, and yeah, I'm glad for it.
I just
Yep.
ate dinner. Now I'm hungry again.
Right before we stopping like crazy for
Yeah.
for Christmas.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved how when I was at RetroCon last weekend, my mother texted me and she goes, "There's 2 months until Christmas," and I'm like, "Thanks," or 3 months or whatever. I'm like, "Thank you so much. I'm here and I'm having fun," and then you remind me of that. And I'm like,
Yeah. My family's big on like just messaging each other links or sending out an email. Here's my list of links,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can,
Here's my Amazon wish list.
right, and then it's easy. Then it's okay. I just bought this and this, and boom, done.
That's what my wife did that to me. There was one Christmas where she bought everything on her wish list and had it signed by me. I was like, whoa, what? And she's like, "At least I got what I want." I'm like, this is like wrong. Like, you're not supposed to do that. But then she did it again on her birthday this year, and that was the easiest thing. And I bought everything on it. And she's like, "I expected one or two things. You went crazy." I go, "You can't say I didn't get you the right thing this year." That's So like that's one of the best things about technology for me is you don't have to read minds anymore.
Right.
But yeah, it's still funny though, because if she pulls crap like that with the whole, "Oh, I really love that you got me this. Oh, the thought you put it." Yeah, you've been eyeing that on Amazon all year. I know how you are.
Yeah, here's my wish list, honey. Surprise me from something off this, please.
Well, the other way I looked at it too is she did all that, and it was something that she wanted, and I thought of all the stuff that came in the mail that I wanted that was on my shelf throughout the year. I go, "All right, she wins, fine," because the last thing I need is for her to start giving me crap about that, because that's my happy spot. So yeah, so it all worked out in the end.
Nice.
Well, I'd like to thank you guys for joining us today, and we hope to see you next time. And good journey.
And this is David Clark, owner of adultcollector.org. I hope everybody goes there to check out the variety of fun Masters of the Universe groups and pages. But also, yeah, just enjoy the fall and, go out, buy some toys and enjoy them. Good journey.
And this is Sean Scavarna from Legends of Grayskull podcast. If you want to hear more Master stuff, feel free to drop in on our podcast and listen, where Matthew Duch and I go over a whole bunch of the goodies of geekdom with Masters. And yeah, like David's saying, fall's here. Enjoy the time of the end of the year, all the fun, the family, and everything else that's going to be happening right around the corner. So, and Halloween, my favorite holiday of the year. So,
Oh,
until next time, good journey.